Coming up on tomorrow's Live at 5, the Entertainment Report talks to singers who've taken up acting.
On Tuesday, Mick Jagger, Vanilla Ice talk about their crossover into the world of filmmaking.
Time now for Nightly News. We'll see you here Tuesday.
Good night.
The American economy and the welfare system got a workout in Washington today, and President Bush got an earful from the nation's governors.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Taxes and welfare, two of the most explosive issues in this economically distressed election year, and today they were on the front burners of Washington. President Bush invited governors to discuss his new economic plan, and he heard rebuttals instead. We begin with NBC's John Cochran tonight. John?
Tom, some of the nation's governors may not like the president's handling of domestic issues, but tonight, he probably doesn't like the manners of some governors, one in particular. The president asked the governors to support his economic package, then signaled it was time for reporters to clear out. But Colorado Democrat Roy Romer said, hold on, reporters and cameras should stay.
There are a couple of points that you made that I think have partisan implications. And I just frankly want to answer them before the press leaves the room, and it is in reference to your budget proposal.
Gimmicks, said Romer. Your budget is full of gimmicks that don't show where all the money is coming from. But Bush made a good recovery with the dreaded T-word, taxes.
But if it doesn't provide the revenue, are you all suggesting a tax increase now at the federal level?
One Democrat surprised everyone by saying higher taxes are better than the huge budget deficit, which he called a sewer of debt.
And I think you could tax the wealthy a lot more.
Governor Romer suggested cutting defense spending beyond the $50 billion Bush has targeted over 5 years.
Do you want it to be $100 billion? And if so, what bases do you want to close? Okay. Or do you want to lay off the people? Now, I'd like to know what your suggestion is specifically, while we have the press here.
And I don't know the answer to that because I don't sit in the halls of Congress, but I think that debate ought to go forward.
Aides say Bush was relieved that Romer offered no solid alternatives, but was surprised that Romer sandbagged him in the first place because they have been friendly in the past. Despite Romer's denials, Bush's aides smell election year politics, and they are shocked. Tom?
Thank you, John. And on Capitol Hill today, welfare reform. What to do about that in the 90s, especially now that 2,000 children a day are being added to the welfare rolls. NBC's Lisa Myers on the controversy in New Jersey, one of the states leading the way.
The mean streets of Camden, where half the population is on welfare. Every day, some of them come to the work group for education, job training, and a way out.
I don't feel good about myself, and I don't feel good raising my kids because someone else is taking care of my kids, not me. Yes,
Jerry Gilbert, on and off welfare for 4 years, and Ivy Logan, who's received benefits for 3, hate being on welfare and believe the existing system is a disaster. But they disagree over a new law which denies an increase in benefits to women who have more children while on welfare.
If they're going to have kids, get out, do something with your life, go to school, get a job, and then do something for your kids. That's taking the responsibility instead of having 5 and 6 kids back to back.
That's great in theory, Jerry says, but last year when she had her youngest child, Jackie, that $64 increase in her benefits helped her buy food.
Some kids will be affected by the $64 taken away from them because there is parents who do use the money for their children.
Bishop James McHugh calls it unfair.
It singles out one group of women and punishes them in a special way.
We've given them false hopes, false values, and values that won't serve them in order for them to matriculate in our economy. And I've just put those values back together, that you must make considerations as you enlarge your family.
Assemblyman Wayne Bryant says his reforms promote work and family. Women could marry without losing all their benefits and earn more money without having their benefits reduced. But recipients also must do more to help themselves. Everyone, except mothers with children under 2, must attend school or job training programs. Those who don't will have their benefits reduced or cut off. Governor Jim Florio predicts that the country soon will follow New Jersey's lead.
This nation, as well as our state, can't afford the anchor around our neck that is represented by substantial numbers of people in the welfare system.
Today, 1 in 7 children in America is on welfare. The question for some is whether they should have to endure more pain to force their parents to break the cycle of dependency. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
Republican Governor John Engler of Michigan is one of the leading advocates of welfare reform. He has a tough new law in his state. Governor, is there a danger here that welfare reform will become kind of a popular whipping boy and that a lot of people who have a short-term need will be thrown out on the street?
Well, I don't think so. I think what we've seen at the National Governors Association meeting this week is that from east to west, from Florio in New Jersey, Wilson in California, and certainly what we're doing in the Midwest, an admission that welfare policy in the last 20 years has been a failure. It's destroyed families, neighborhoods, communities.
There is no question about the fact that welfare does need to be reformed in some fashion. But for example, in New Jersey, they're providing a real support structure for those people who are taken off the rolls. You don't have that kind of support structure in Michigan.
Well, actually, we think we do. We think we can make it work now. We did eliminate a general assistance program for single able-bodied adults, but we've strengthened programs for families. And in fact, we're taking statewide something I told the governors about, a Families First intensive program to keep families together, keep the kids from having to go to foster care, be taken out of the home. So there's some real positive benefits to what we're doing as well.
Governor, do you know anybody who's on welfare who enjoys it?
I don't know anybody who's on it that enjoys it. I've been in shelters. I've talked to people living in terrible circumstances. They can't possibly enjoy it.
And yet, the other night in his State of the Union speech, the president talked only about what he described as a kind of permanent welfare population, talked about their need to face up to their responsibilities. Was that an oversimplification?
I don't think so, because by the same token, we have people who don't like their circumstances. We also have children coming out of those families that don't go to school. There's no follow-up on the part of the family. The families, in many instances, have increased in size, despite the inability really to take care of the family that they currently have. You've got a number of challenges facing us with welfare and poverty in America that simply, under the current system, aren't being dealt with well. And the governors are saying to the Congress, give us the authority to make some changes, let us try some innovations.
And what do you think the chances are that Congress will give you that responsibility?
Well, that's one thing that Republican and Democrat governors alike agree upon, that Congress has tried to micromanage social policy from Washington, and they simply haven't done it well. And the president said if the governors will identify the things they want changed, he'll fight with us, and we've said we'll fight with him.
Governor Engler, thank you very much. When Nightly News continues in a moment, the Japanese Prime Minister bashing American workers again. And tonight's Daily Difference. In the 90s, Roger O'Neill on Americans working scared.
A cold always starts small, but before you know it, your cold is full grown. That's when you need Dimetapp. If it was any stronger, you'd need a prescription. Dimetapp Extend tabs work for 12 full hours. It's the way to relieve the congestion and sneezing of a full-grown cold. Maximum strength Dimetapp Extend tabs. Relief for the full-grown cold. And for colds and flu with fever, now there's Dimetapp Cold and Flu.
Take a 3, 4, or 7-day fun ship vacation to the Bahamas, Caribbean, or Mexican Riviera on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
At night, I soak my dentures. In the morning, I use toothpaste. At night, I soak.
Wake up. All you need is denture cream. In just 90 seconds, denture cream gets dentures nearly twice as clean. So why pay for 2 products? All you need is denture cream.
On Assignment Earth tonight, a finding that everyone should be alarmed about. In the words of NASA scientists, the protective ozone layer is being threatened as never before right over the United States. We're all at risk. More now from NBC's Robert Hager.
Flying a converted U-2 spy plane from Bangor, Maine and Fairbanks, Alaska, NASA pilots climbed to 67,000 feet into the lower stratosphere to measure the potential for ozone depletion. At this time of year, when the ozone layer is at its most vulnerable over the northern hemisphere. A larger DC-8 flew below, its belly stuffed full of scientific gear. The startling results announced today, the highest levels of ozone-destroying chlorine chemicals ever found in the skies over Earth anywhere. The scientists said the record measurements came just 2 weeks ago over northern New England and over eastern Canada. Enough chlorine chemical to temporarily thin the ozone layer by 1 to 2% a day during the cold period of late winter. Stratospheric ozone shields us from the sun's ultraviolet rays. Chemicals that deplete ozone accumulate from refrigerants and firefighting sprays. As ozone thins, the risk of skin cancer increases, as well as risk to people's immune systems. New satellite information also from NASA today. The yellow indicates an abnormally high concentration of ozone-depleting chemicals. The red is the very highest concentration. This movement of the chemicals occurred over several days last month.
NASA scientists warn this makes it almost certain an annual ozone hole will develop over populated areas of North America and Europe sometime this decade. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
There's not much optimism in today's economic news. The Commerce Department said the recession pushed spending on construction down more than 9% in 1991. That's the sharpest decline in 47 years. And if you thought that the bashing was over between this country and Japan, well, think again. NBC's Brad Willis tonight in Tokyo.
This time, the put down on American workers came during a nationally televised session of Japan's parliament. One lawmaker claimed that part of the problem is that some Americans don't work hard enough on Mondays or Fridays because they're too preoccupied with enjoying themselves on weekends. Then Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa added, "I have long felt that Americans lack a work ethic and can't, quote, live by the sweat of their brow." Miyazawa also said that too many U.S. college graduates have gone to the world of Wall Street with its junk bonds and leveraged buyouts. Not enough have become engineers who develop real goods.
It was just 2 weeks ago that Japan's Speaker of the House touched a raw nerve in the U.S. by criticizing American workers for being lazy and illiterate. There's been a growing sentiment here that America simply isn't what it used to be.
And these are the kinds of images that many Japanese have of America. A country plagued by social ills and seemingly unsolvable problems. Without responding to Miyazawa directly, President Bush today defended American workers.
#1 in the world. I do not believe for a minute that this is a country in decline.
In a downtown Tokyo nightclub, white-collar Japanese escaped the drudgery of long workdays by celebrating American culture, country western style. But they're drinking to the good old days of an America that many Japanese believe is fading away.
Japan has been trying to catch up and pass the U.S. economically and has finally done it.
The good things about today's America? Nothing really comes to mind.
Brad Willis, NBC News, Tokyo.
Here at home on Wall Street today, the Dow Industrials began the week on the upside in moderate trading today.
Evidently, some people have money to burn. Why else would they pay an outrageous fee to carry a simple credit card when they could carry the Discover card, the card that charges no annual fee, yet pays cash back on every charge, which means it puts money into your pocket instead of burning a hole in it. It pays to Discover.
Oh, no. My hair's not only going gray, now it's getting thinner. I wish they made something for gray, thinning hair.
They have Grecian Plus. Grecian Plus is a fresh-smelling foam that gradually brings back natural-looking color, the famous Grecian way. But this Grecian has a big plus. It builds body for healthier, fuller-looking hair.
Your hair looks great. Feels thicker, too.
Grecian Plus, the total treatment for gray, thinning hair.
There's constipation and there's constipation.
Oh, yeah.
When it's this bad, take it to the max. New maximum relief formula Ex-Lax pills with 50% more Ex-Lax medicine for maximum relief.
Oh, yeah.
Take it to the max. Now's the time for Centrum Silver, because you're over 50 and you're out there swinging. Centrum Silver, a complete vitamin formula for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
Tonight's Daily Difference. In the 90s, the American economy through the looking glass of this difficult decade. All this week, we will be exploring the changes now affecting our lives. Tonight, the workplace. Unemployment, of course, has taken a toll, just over 7% last month. But more than 90% of Americans are working, and many of them have a growing concern about security. NBC's Roger O'Neill.
In America today, 2,600 people lost their jobs. It happened Friday, and it will happen again tomorrow. It didn't happen at Coors Brewing Company in Colorado, but the fact that layoffs are happening almost everywhere else means they could happen here or where you work, and it is scaring the hell out of us.
Never before in the history of the American workplace has this kind of rampant staff cutting, particularly in the white-collar ranks, been so pervasive.
As deep as the job cuts have been, the fact is most of us still have jobs. But how do companies keep their employees from being distracted by workplace fear? Mike Ryan has been putting beer in bottles and cans for 26 years, but his job has changed dramatically.
I've got more responsibilities than I had before.
If something goes wrong on the number 7 can line now, Ryan gets it fixed. He doesn't call a supervisor.
At first it was a little scary, but now I'm more part of what's going on now.
Faced with tough competition and a troubled economy, a few companies like Coors are making big changes. The traditional top-to-bottom style of management has been turned upside down. It's called participatory management.
We had traditionally hired people for their muscle, and management was supposed to be the brains. I said, wait a minute, these people have families, they're putting their kids through school, they've got outside interests that take some sophistication and some significant intellect. We're wasting a very valuable resource in this company.
The change at Coors, while not as traumatic as job layoffs, has produced a lot of fear.
One of the problems companies have is when they're laying off people, or they're going through significant change, and the workers get angry because of the fears that they have.
For these supervisors, if everyone is making decisions, what's left to supervise?
That's right. You know, just what is my role going to be? There's a lot of unknowns there.
You question how much risk you really want to take, simply because it is unknown and it's a fear.
A consulting company called the Communication Connection is trying to help employees focus their energy on the value of team decision-making for themselves and for their company.
I think it's teaching them to be aware of themselves, of their own fear, and recognizing it, and then learning to concentrate on what's right, not concentrate on what's wrong.
The type of thing that's going on at Coors is very encouraging because what they're really doing is getting bureaucracy out of the way of the working people. And many companies have found that when you let the average working person use their brain at work, some wonderful things happen.
Like making the word change exciting, rather than something to be afraid of. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Golden, Colorado.
Tomorrow in this series, living with changes in the 90s.
Remember the 80s?
I remember them.
It seemed like it was so easy to make money in those days.
Sure.
Personal investment tomorrow. How to get the most from your money.
Throughout the course of the year.
They say you can please some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time. But you can't please all of the people all of the time. Or can you?
Special Accord leases are now available. See your nearest Honda dealer for details.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Pain that's hard to face alone. That's why you need new Ultra Strength Bengay. It's the strongest Bengay ever. For muscle pain that's hard to ignore. Minor arthritis pain. Back pain. Pain that seems worse at night. New Ultra Strength Bengay with added power and a third pain reliever. Deep, penetrating warmth for fast, long-lasting relief. You can say goodnight to your pain with new Ultra Strength Bengay.
Paradise surrounds me. There's no place like this on land. All my cares, they're behind me. The world's in my command.
The most magnificent resorts on Earth are on water. Royal Caribbean, the grand resorts of the 7 seas.
Royal Caribbean.
It's gone. But it isn't.
Introducing Extra Strength Vicks Cough Drops.
It's gone, but it's still working.
Now with twice the Vicks Vapor Medicine to relieve your cough and help your scratchy throat and stuffy nose feel better, even after the drop is gone.
Hot coffee and steak in front of strangers at 30,000 feet? Not with my old adhesive.
Fixodent holds stronger than any other adhesive. It even stands up to the hottest liquids.
Now I've Fixodent and forget it.
A U.S. Coast Guard cutter took Haitian refugees back home today, back to a land they risked their lives to flee. The closest the Haitians had come to freedom was a makeshift tent city at the U.S. naval base in Cuba. More on this tonight from NBC's Fred Francis.
With their dreams of a new life in America trampled, the first of Haiti's boat people returned to the poverty of the island nation. They are the first of over 10,000 who will make this journey, an unintended round trip which began with hope of getting to America and ended today in despair at being forced home. The vast majority of the Haitians at the Guantanamo camps say they will be persecuted or killed if they go back. Some charge U.S. policy is motivated by racism. But U.S. officials insist that more than 80% of the Haitians are economic migrants, not political outcasts, not racial undesirables.
Most of the people that we have seen come here are people who are so far removed from the political process in Haiti that the things that are going on in the government don't even affect them, and in many cases they don't even know they're happening.
If General Walls and others are wrong, and Haitians continue to flee, while those who are returned are persecuted or killed, the U.S. will have to reassess its policy.
I think the United States has either got to decide we're going to live with this government of thugs, or we are going to tell them you have the choice of either getting out or we're going to carry you out.
But there is almost no support in Washington for military action. One official here said it would take years to rescue Haiti from itself. Fred Francis, NBC News, the Pentagon.
At the same time, the trial of deposed Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega resumed in Miami today. It had been in recess for 7 weeks, so the judge could undergo heart surgery. More on the trial now from NBC's Deborah Roberts.
2 years after his arrest on drug and racketeering charges, it was finally Manuel Noriega's day in court. In an opening statement, defense attorney John May told the jury he would prove the U.S. government used Noriega, then turned on him. Noriega was once our ally in the war against drugs, he said, not the crooked cop the government alleges.
The evidence will show that General Noriega cooperated with the United States in a number of very significant operations.
To prove it, the defense began calling a list of federal drug officials. First, Peter Benzinger, a former DEA chief who said he didn't want to testify for the defense. He admitted once writing Noriega letters, thanking him for help in fighting drug lords. The U.S. government doesn't deny Noriega often helped in the drug fight, but says he used his friendship as a cover to pocket bribes from drug dealers and launder their money. But the government has had to rely on hearsay from known criminals to try to prove it. One by one, they were offered incredible deals, including green cards, reduced sentences, and more than $1 million just to testify.
At this point, we have an example of the United States government doing everything within their power to convict Manuel Noriega. They have committed misconduct throughout this case.
Defense lawyers will spend the next month calling in drug agents who once worked with Noriega and will testify he was helpful in the U.S. drug fight. Deborah Roberts, NBC News, Miami.
Well, Nightly News continues in a moment. 83 years old, and he's still king of the mountain.
With the introduction of the 1992 LeSabre, Buick's reputation continues to grow. And it pleases us that people are taking notice. Because LeSabre isn't just another fine motor car. It's a Buick. And Buick is rapidly becoming an enormous symbol for quality in America.
She buys store brands for some things, but when it comes to pain relievers, I'm glad she still uses Advil. I trust it, and I know it helps.
Here, Mom. Oh, thanks. Now I'll feel better. What's this?
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Where
do you want to be in 30 years?
Well, you know, we Cranfords are a feisty lot. My mother just celebrated her 97th birthday. I'm going on a photographic safari to Kenya. I want my grandchildren to see where I grew up. And I never miss bridge with the girls. I believe if you rest, you rust. So let's just make sure that my money keeps up with me.
You can get there from here with Shearson Lehman Brothers.
Well, actually, we've always tried to watch what we eat. I mean, okra and garlic are, what, part of our lives.
Now we hear a lot about garlic.
Yeah.
So we take Kwai odor-free garlic tablets.
And you know, they really are odor-free.
Millions of Europeans have been taking Kwai odor-free garlic tablets for years. It's part of their daily diet. It's the best. And now it's available in this country, too.
Kwai is available at quality drugstores, health and natural food stores, and general nutrition centers. Kwai, science and nature working for you.
When the Winter Olympics open on Saturday, the American skiers will be the byproducts of a great growth in the popularity of their sport in this country in the last 20 years or so. What many of them may not realize, however, is how much they owe to an American skiing legend who is still on the mountain. NBC's Mike Leonard.
83-year-old Alf Engen leads another group of children down the mountains of Alta, Utah.
Was I a little bit too fast for you coming down there, or could you keep up?
A good question for anyone who has ever tried to keep pace with this record-breaking immigrant from Norway. The purest of sportsmen with his wife as his coach, Alf Engen was all set to leave for the 1936 Winter Olympics when he was suddenly kicked off the team. Olympic officials told him that his picture on a Wheaties ad nullified his amateur status, even though he never received a dime from the cereal company.
No, I wasn't paid for it, but I got all kinds of Wheaties. The whole town had Wheaties. All of Salt Lake had Wheaties.
And they had Alf, too, who eventually retired from competition to become the great missionary of skiing, the teacher of at least 500,000 people, the designer of more than 30 ski areas around the country, this being one of them.
He's the spirit of what graces the slopes at Alta.
Okay. An 83-year-old spirit who simply won't fade away. His son, Alan, also a champion skier, used to bring up the question of retirement.
And Dad always would say, Alan, retire to what? He says, I've got the most beautiful office in the world. What am I going to retire to?
A wheelchair, they thought, 4 years ago, when an out-of-control skier slammed into Alf from behind.
It was a sad sight. The old, seemingly indestructible king of the mountain, lying in the snow with a shattered knee and a broken ankle.
The pools were bent and him on top of me, he got off. And I said, where are you from? And he didn't say anything for a while, but he started to cry.
How could a man in his 80s recover to ski again? The same way he recovered from the disappointment of a lost Olympic medal, by looking to the future.
I don't particularly care about medals. I got enough of them.
What do you care about?
Being up here.
Still on top.
Okay, you can make them turns here if you like.
Mike Leonard, NBC News, Alta, Utah.
That's Daily News for Monday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Coming up next from your 24-hour news source.
Janet, do not touch me! Do not touch me!
Disgusted parents in Missouri shout at Betty Warnock after a judge dismisses child abuse charges against a former Polk County babysitter.
Des Moines police say they have a lead in a threat made against them in connection with the Larry Milton case. I'm Kathy Saltero. I'll have a live report.
Little is left after a test plane goes down near Boone. A Des Moines man is dead.
These stories and some changes at the old Sec Taylor Stadium all just ahead.
Last year, over 50,000 women found families to adopt their unexpected children.
We have a daughter.
They decided instead of abortion to tough it out and bring their babies into the world. They held to their belief that nothing is more precious than human life. To all these mothers, the families who adopted these children would like to say, thank you. Life, what a beautiful choice.
On February 5th, I'll travel to Washington, D.C. as the first Iowa journalist to be invited to spend the day with Barbara Bush.
Kim Kerrigan talks to Barbara Bush Wednesday at 10 on News Center 13.
Don't forget to enter the Command 4EC herbicide Take a Vacation from Broadleaves and Grasses sweepstakes. You could win a week's vacation for two at the fabulous Hilton Hawaiian Village on Waikiki Beach. See your participating Command dealer for details.
It's the little things that make a bank great.
One day, my car died in the drive-up lane at the bank. I was so embarrassed. The next thing I knew, someone from the bank was out there helping me get it started. I found out later it was the president of the bank. The president. I think that gives a whole new meaning to the term personal service.
Hawkeye Banks of Iowa. It's the little things.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
It's not fair. God, help these kids, please.
Parents overcome with emotion in Columbia, Missouri, as a woman they say abused their children goes free. Good evening. She was a babysitter convicted of child abuse in Polk County 10 years ago.
And today, Betty Warnock walked away from similar charges in Missouri. Charges against Warnock were dropped, and a district court judge in Columbia ordered her release. The prosecution in the case said that they had no choice. There wasn't enough evidence to take Warnock to court. The decision has angered parents who entrusted their children to Warnock. They say they won't rest until Betty Warnock is in jail.
In part one of our team coverage tonight, News Center 13's Scott Pope says dozens of angry parents waited for Warnock outside the Columbia courthouse this morning. They carried signs and shouted at Warnock as she walked to her car.
Now.
A feeling of disbelief turned to rage this morning when felony child abuse charges against Betty Warnock were dropped.
Yes, you're going all the way to smile all you want. I don't care. You're going to pay for what you did to my daughter, okay? You understand that? Do not touch me. God bless you. Do not touch me. You touch my daughter. You don't touch me.
Others were overcome by grief.
It's not fair. God, help these kids, please.
As Warnock walked to her van, she was surrounded by parents carrying signs and singing hymns.
Here, precious inside, Jesus loves the little. You can testify. Now you're with me.
Warnock ignored the crowd, but told reporters that justice was served.
I never was guilty, and they couldn't even prove it.
The case against Warnock fell apart when the parents of several children in Warnock's care refused to let them testify in court. That was the backbone of the case.
Children's parents did not want to let those children testify. Today I spoke with the parents, and one of them changed their mind, indicating that they wanted the case to continue and would allow that child to testify. But I couldn't put that child on the stand, knowing I couldn't get a conviction with the evidence I had.
But the parents say the fight is far from over, and they won't rest until Betty Warnock is in jail.
Tomorrow morning we're going to the Attorney General's office, I believe, in Jeff City, and we're going to go to the courthouse. We're going wherever it takes.
The parents will now try and uncover evidence against Betty Warnock that the prosecutors couldn't, and that will likely mean a trip to Iowa to review testimony and transcripts from Warnock's conviction in Polk County 10 years ago. Scott Pope, News Center 13. Betty Warnock's latest brush with the law isn't her first. Her name became well known to Central Iowans 10 years ago. In 1982, she was found guilty of locking children in wooden boxes at her Polk County daycare center. She could have been sentenced to 61 years in prison, but instead served 1 month and paid a $1,000 fine. She then moved to Missouri, and last year, charges were filed against her for child molestation and abuse, charges that were dismissed today.
A Des Moines man who says his 3-year-old son was abused by Betty Warnock 10 years ago is outraged with the Missouri ruling. Joe Cordero says his 3-year-old boy was subject to being locked up in the wooden boxes that were confiscated from Warnock's Polk County daycare. Mr. Cordero joins us now from the newsroom. And first, Mr. Cordero, let me ask you your reaction to today's dismissal.
I'm not surprised. We knew it was coming. I wish I could have been down there with them. Hopefully I'll be able to meet them when they're up here. It's just kind of numb right now.
And a little bit about them coming up here. What do you think they might be able to find up here to help them there in Missouri?
I don't know what they can find. You know, they'll have to go through the transcripts of the trial back then. You know, anything I can do to help, I'm going to.
but I just don't know what it's going to, you know, what good it's going to do. It hasn't helped yet.
Mr. Cordero, what kind of steps have you taken in your family to overcome this situation?
Well, we tried to put it behind us. Kids took therapy when it first happened, but we've kind of stayed out of it until this happened again. Now we're not sure what we're going to do. I'm not going to let it drop.
And is that the kind of advice that you're passing on to the parents down there now that they've been handed this blow today?
Oh, you bet. We all should get together and see what we can do as a group, you know, strengthen numbers. And I know myself, till the day I die, I'm not going to let it drop.
Joe Cordero, we're glad you could be with us tonight. Thank you very much, sir. The wooden boxes from Warnock's Polk County daycare may become a part of history right here in the state of Iowa. The boxes in which she locked children up at her daycare are being held at the Iowa Historical Museum as evidence. Museum director David Crossan says he never plans to display the boxes as an exhibit. He says they're being stored as confidential material and won't be released for at least 75 years.
Police may be closing in on the man they believe sent a threat to 3 Des Moines officers last month. Authorities now have a composite sketch of a suspect. Our Kathy Soltero standing by live at the Des Moines Police Department with the latest. Kathy?
Well, John, you may recall it was just last Tuesday that a package that was addressed to Sergeant Joanne Pollock was sent here to the Des Moines Police Station. Inside, there were 3 bullets from a high-powered rifle, each having the name of the 3 officers that were involved in the Larry Milton case taped to them. At that time, police were fingerprinting the package. They said that they had an idea who might have sent the bullets. They were even attempting to trace where the package was mailed from. Police aren't saying much about how they came up with this composite, but this is the suspect. He's described as a black male, light to medium complected. He's about 20 years old, 6 foot 3 inches tall, and about 180 pounds. If you have any information, you are asked to call the Des Moines Police Department. This was the first real threat to Des Moines police since the Larry Milton incident. And police are saying they're very tight-lipped about this whole thing right now as far as the investigation. John?
Kathy, how confident are police that this is the right man?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when this package was sent, they had an idea who might have sent this. And incidentally, today, they were talking about maybe even one more person involved. So there could be more than just one person involved in this case. John?
Thank you. Kathy Soltero reporting live for us. The Des Moines man was killed today after his experimental plane went down in a field near Boone. Authorities say 61-year-old Raymond Bristow was killed at the scene. The crash happened sometime between noon and 1. The wreckage scattered over several hundred yards. A nearby farmer was the first on the scene.
All I saw was the debris in the field, and I walked out to see what it was, and as I approached it, you could tell it was a small aircraft of some type, and the body was there with the debris in the field.
The cause of the crash is unknown. The FAA has been called in to investigate. A friend of Bristow says that he was a licensed pilot and had been flying the experimental plane since last summer.
1 week from tonight, Iowa voters will take part in the first-in-the-nation presidential selection process. And with just 7 days to go, these workers at Tom Harkin's presidential campaign office here in Des Moines were busy making signs today. Meantime, an Associated Press delegate survey shows Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton is the leading choice among members of the Democratic National Committee who have made early commitments. Clinton was preferred, by 70 members. Senator Tom Harkin was the choice of 23 DNC members, while Nebraska Senator Bob Kerrey was supported by 15 members. 178 delegates in the survey remained undecided. More than 2,100 delegate votes are needed for the nomination. She's said to be the most admired woman in the world. Wednesday, I'll sit down and talk with her at the White House one-on-one. I'll ask First Lady Barbara Bush about the American family, how it's changed and what the future holds. I'll talk with her about life as the First Lady, the upcoming election, and the President himself. Join me for live reports from Washington on Wednesday, then a series of reports at 6 and 10, one-on-one with Barbara Bush this week on News Center 13.
You're going to have some stories to tell when you get back.
I'm very excited. I leave early tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Good luck. Up next from your 24-hour news source, there's a new look tonight at the site of the old Sec Taylor Stadium.
Construction workers have put down their tools for the day, but earlier today at the new Sec Taylor Stadium, there was a major milestone reached. I'm Tom Hauser. I'll have a live eye report.
And if you're pulled over by the police in Des Moines, this little gadget may be used to give you a ticket. We'll have details coming up.
I like scrambled eggs, pies, chips. This is good.
You know, when I was a kid,
all I cared about was making money.
Well, that was success to us then. Now, I gotta spend time with my grandkids.
like my grandpa did with me.
What do you think about that, huh?
7877, Cargill's hot hybrid in the 113-day maturity range. Big, rugged plants manufacture the energy needed for top yields year after year. Plant moderate populations and watch its ears flex to produce outstanding yields. Remember the number, 7877. The company is Cargill.